As you can see, looking down, we have a New Zealander, an Australia, Canada. Great to have, we'll know all about Ben Hayward in a minute. If you recognize the voice but couldn't put a picture to the name, it's David Ford, 1999, aging you, 1999 world champion in this event. So you certainly know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's great to see a Canadian in the final. We had Michael Taylor last weekend finishing 10th in the qualification event, so it shows the quality of our program at home. So obviously being a Canadian, I'm quite excited about that.
As a team, are you going on to Prague next week?
Yeah, we're going to race in Prague and then go home for some training in the US, where the World Championships will be held in September.
Italy have a finalist, ANDREA Romeo. He does have a gold medal to his name in the K1 teams event in Prague. The Italy won. Let's see how they attack it. So many of these semi-finalists took a 50 on the second gate. So at least he's come through that.
He's actually run that section really nicely, keeping the boat dry and moving. Doesn't look flashy, but the boat's moving.
Big Italian contingent here, so we'll expect some noise in a few minutes. Not too far away from Italy physically. We're just outside the Slovenian capital of Ljubljana. Looking like he's putting together a good run at the stage.
Yeah, he is, and he's doing it without wasting a lot of energy, which will pay off at the finish with that very hard move we've seen the C1 struggle with at times.
Point of reference, the fastest semi-final time was Mathieu Doby from Belgium. He came down in 97 seconds clean.
So we don't have anything to compare his midway split to, but I believe that's a good 5 seconds faster than the Canoes, which I think is an indication of a solid run.
Well, so far clean.
This is that critical move. Can he catch this wave? He does. Doesn't quite get on it, but I'm not sure he needed to. The boat was running anyway.
He's putting together a cracking run, isn't he? Here we go. That is impressive.
Fastest run of the day, and he puts the pressure on the other 9 athletes because they'll hear the speaker. They'll know what he's just done.
Rightly proud of a wonderful first run.
Kind of a surprise, I have to say, but he's the kind of athlete in training who is often quick. Just hasn't had the opportunity yet to do it in a race, and I think we just saw a bit of a special run from him.
Daniel Mulmelti, his compatriot, didn't actually make the final, as I mentioned a minute ago. He took a 50-second penalty. He's now sprinting back home to his wife because she let him off for today, but nowhere tomorrow because it's his wedding anniversary, so he was given a bit of a pass. Fabian DOERFLER won the sprint on Wednesday evening in Ljubljana city, so we know he can certainly go fast. 2005 world champion. When I spoke to him about 10 minutes after the event, he wasn't qualified. He said, well, I didn't touch any of the boats, but they've given me penalties and they appealed. And he was correct. He said, I might have had some water, but I know I didn't touch a pole. So he's a 2005 world champion, top rally driver, and is capable of putting forward a really, really top time.
Yeah, especially here. I hate to give the announcer's curse, but Fabian DOERFLER can be very, very fast here. Only 2/100ths adrift of the Italian, so lots of course left for him to. Oh, but catching his bow early there. You need to keep the boat running if you're going to be fast.
I suppose part of the benefit of being in the German team is the most difficult race of the season is the German trials.
Yeah, I've raced German trials a couple of times, and it is probably the toughest race I ever do in terms of quality of performance and how many good boats there are.
And Paul Berkler, who's number 5 or 6 in the world, didn't even make the team this year.
You have many instances where you have Olympic medalists and world championship medalists not making the team.
Well, he's certainly in touch. At the last bit, he was a third of a second up. Let's see how he goes. Big German contingent following him down, whistling away.
Very good in big whitewater competitions and using that whitewater perfectly, keeping the boat running nicely, very tight to the upstream.
97, it's going to be close.
It's going to have to go.
Great, well done, Fabian. Fastest time of the day so far.
2 very good runs to start the competition. Our fastest run this morning was 97.69. Both of those runs inside of that time already. There were a couple of places where I felt like he probably could have taken advantage a little bit better, so maybe the door is still open. As I look at the rest of the athletes, though, Sebastian Schubert, one of the few, other than perhaps the Slovenian home knowledge, that has the capacity to lay down runs that can rival that.
Next up, Mike Dawson. Bumped into him on Thursday and you said, do you want me to do some commentating? I said, not on Saturday because you'll be in the final. So he's coming in tomorrow and he's got a lot of local knowledge. He spent a lot of time a couple summers ago in Slovenia, likes it here.
He does like it here, worked a lot with Dejan Krauj, a Slovenian team member for many years. I was actually sitting with him after his run and he hadn't even had anything to eat or done much of a cool down. He was convinced his run wasn't good enough to make the final, and as things progressed, I convinced him he should probably go do something about being ready for the final.
So if he wins, it's down to you, but that's not good.
No. That's that moment where he leaned his boat a little bit too far, so he let that whitewater catch it and pull it down and hold it. You need to be very flat there so the boat can skim over the whitewater and run to the next downstream gate. Also picking up a penalty. Already behind Doerfler's midway split. I don't think this was the run he was looking for, but certainly an achievement to get in the final here.
7 seconds off the pace in the moment. As you all know, he's an Olympian as well, was 15th in the London Olympic Games. Capable of running some massive water as well.
Yeah, like Doerfler, he does a lot of the extreme races on very, very big whitewater. This sort of stuff shouldn't faze him at all. See him catching a little, maybe too much surf actually. Not having the boat run directly across as we saw Doerfler.
So the big challenge he had at the beginning of the course, putting him way down, unfortunately. Well, you see he's in third place, but only 3 participants first of all. But there were 63 competitors set out at the beginning of the week, and he's got into the top 10, and knows he's on camera. Thank you, Mike.
Great achievement by him, but I think this is one of those runs to show some contrast to our first 2 runs. In Tacen, when you get just that half a meter offline early, it's very difficult to kind of get back in the flow and get back on your race line. And I think he had to put a little more struggle in for not much gain than he would have liked.
Will Forsythe again. We had the same conversation on Thursday. I said, I don't want you on Saturday commentating. He commentated this last week because you're going to be in the final. He was. He is, rather. Last season he had an injury and then he made it to the World Championships.
Nice run down the drop, nice and dry. Kind of that perfect balance between being tight but not taking the penalty.
Well, that's the best start so far. Interesting to see where we are on the split.
Didn't get held up like Mike Dawson did.
He's in touch, half a second down.
As I said, Doerfler maybe left the door open to something special if he can find it. Needs to really run this section well, which he does. Oh, he needed to have his boat rotated another 30 centimeters to be able to make that move properly. Ends up going on the wrong side of the rock and is now in that water I was talking about earlier during the C1 class that can actually shift. So at points you're actually paddling against the flow even though you're pointing downstream.
And was that another touch?
That was another touch. Knowing that he needed to do something to make up for that, he really went tight to that upstream and just caught it with his shoulder on the way in. To his credit, though, he knows he needs to do something special, and he's going for it. Just not going to be enough, unfortunately.
Not today. Let's see where he comes up. Fabian Doebler in your picture is leading. Great to be in the final, though. Will Forsythe, 104.7.
Actually, with a 100 running time, it shows how good the rest of the run was with that mistake where he ended up on the wrong side of the rock. That cost him a lot of time.
Well, so far, first two in 0.2 of a second. I'm just looking back at the semi-final results. We had a 97, 299s. Then we had 7 100s and 7 or 8 101. So it's really, really, really tight racing out there.
It is, and as you mentioned earlier, a lot of the bigger names falling to 50-second penalties.
Who's this guy?
This is Ben Hayward from Canada. Ben is an on or off kind of guy. He really, really goes hard and has probably the most comfort with risk of any paddler out there.
Is that a compliment?
It's one of those things where when he manages his wrists properly, it's very, very fast. When he doesn't, unfortunately, it can get into trouble quickly. He's shown on several occasions he has the potential to be in the final, pardon me. So it's great to see him finally coming through here in Tacen.
Still in touch, 0.8 down. You've been speaking to him this morning?
I haven't actually talked to him today. It's one of those things where he's kind of, being a teammate, I try and manage the environment so I'm not a distraction at all.
He's certainly not wasting any time around the ups.
That's that risk I told you he's willing to do, really barely getting his head in. Oh, and there, that's just an unlucky surge. That water, where normally it's running downstream, was almost running upstream, and in trying to fight that, he's kind of gotten off his line, and we're seeing it resulting in penalties and slow course management. But it really wasn't Ben's fault. It was just the shift of the water.
He's been given a 50 there.
With this being his first final, though, from a Canadian perspective, I think it's just the indication of what that means for both myself and Michael Taylor and the other people in our program. It's just great to see somebody in the final again.
Lifts the morale of the whole team.
Certainly disappointed knowing an opportunity went, but hopefully in the next few hours he'll realize the achievement of just the fact that it is his first final.
Well, we have another Slovenian coming down, Martin ALBREHT. There were huge cheers in the semi-final when he came down. I think expecting to make some noise. Great pictures.
Great slow motion shots of what the athletes go through. These things happen so quickly for us out there. Curious to see what this run looks like. I thought he looked a little bit measured on his first run. Wondering if there's maybe something else left that he's able to draw upon here.
Well, local knowledge may come into play.
Struggling there, he ended up wide in that downstream, not able to get his approach to the upstream quite properly, so he ended up sitting there on the eddy line longer than he should, showing in the split almost just over 3 seconds back already. Even with local knowledge, 3 seconds is a tough one to overcome.
So he's going to have to really put the foot down to the maximum and take huge risks.
The problem is, as I mentioned before, in Tacen, sometimes those sorts of things happen and you don't even notice how far and how much time you've lost. And so you continue on your way and get to the finish line and are a little bit shocked to realize you're 4 seconds back when it all didn't really feel that bad.
Well, he hasn't lost any time in the midsection, but nearly 4 seconds down at this point.
Even with the great bottom section, I'm not sure there's much he can do to improve at this point.
Third position rather maybe for bronze medal is 104.7.
On here, he misses that wave. You see him crabbing to the finish or to the eddy line. He's not running the boat.
Maximum effort for the last line and touches the last wave.
That shows me maybe he let the situation get to him a little bit.
with the quality to come so far. Ben Hayward is appealing his 52nd penalty.
I didn't see which gate he was given the 50-second penalty on, so I can't say what his likelihood of being successful with that is.
So 4 competitors to go. Fabian DOERFLER at the moment in the driving streak with the fastest time of the day, 97.12 seconds, and clear. ANDREA ROMEO from Italy, 0.2 seconds worse off, and clear. ONDREJ TUNKA for the Czech Republic, first of 2 Czech Republic competitors to go, 23 years old, last week in Lee Valley, only came 19th. Tacen last year, I believe he came 6th.
Trains a lot with a very successful training group, which means that on a daily basis he knows what it takes to be a medalist. It's just whether or not he's able to draw on it on race day. In too high already. That's that fine line between wanting to be really direct and extreme and shortening your line, but not overcooking it. Ending up too high in that upstream means he's got to wait for it, killing any chance of having a fast split.
As you can see, 6 seconds off the pace at the moment. Is there a conscious decision at this point to say, wow, just let's go for it, or let's just keep it clean?
I think he had the conscious decision to go for it before he started this run, and I think that the way he got into this final was by using the whitewater, using his skill, and kind of not fighting so much with the whitewater. And what he's done by trying to go fast here is just started to struggle and fight rather than be smart with his placement of power. And Tacen really makes you pay for it when you're not pretty on the water. DOERFLER, an example of where he actually was able to fight and still be fast.
Let's see who we are so far. No, he's not going to medal today, unfortunately. ONDREJ TUNKA and provisionally into 5th place.
I think this, what we just saw too, is an example of those athletes really early on laying down very competitive times. Everyone in the start, as they're warming up, can hear that loudspeaker. They know what's going on. As much as you try and ignore it and be within your own race head, it gets in there, and you know that, okay, I was 3 seconds slower in my semifinal than what these guys are doing. If I want to be on the podium, somewhere I have to find 3 seconds. And I think what we saw was him trying to find those 3 seconds, but the river saying no.
Well said. Next competitor, if you can have a parental advantage, his father was sprinting down the course a few minutes before he went, just to take last video footage of the upstreams. It's HILGERT, obviously mother Stepanka Hilgertova's been at 6 Olympics and won more medals than we got time to talk about. Be interesting to see how they go. Parents are surely going to be running down in front of us in a minute.
I watched them in his semi-final, running down with them. He's got something to prove here, not making the team proper this year. This might be one of his few opportunities to have a World Cup start. Not doing too badly so far. Oh, but picking up a 2-second penalty, that's not gonna help his cause.
Apart from the penalty, still in touch though. As you can see in your picture, Will Forsythe at the moment is holding on to the bronze medal with a gross time of 104.7.
Not really doing what he needs to do here. It's all just a little bit timid almost, where he's afraid to make the choices he knows he has to make.
Coming under the bridge. Father running down with him, pushing his son on.
Doing well with that last upstream. This last move will be interesting. Doesn't really get the surf, but is able to move the boat anyway. Kind of the surf on the back of the surf.
Time to go for 104.70. It's going to be very close for the medal.
Yep.
Well, he puts himself in a chance. Fabian DOERFLER does have a medal. 2 competitors to go.
The next competitor for me, Sebastian SCHUBERT, was who I've been waiting for since DOERFLER laid down his run to see if maybe someone can challenge him.
Not the ideal start to the season, was only 8th in Vienna.
Both SCHUBERT and Einer choosing to change radical boat designs this year. Always tough when you're having a successful run of races.
As we all know, he won the World Cup standings last year, so I guess he's the man to beat. It's great watching his mental preparation when he's going down the course before. He's actually living all the moves, isn't he?
Yeah, mental imagery for us is key with no opportunity to have a practice run. He's tight, but I'm not sure that it's fast. Three-quarters of a second back already. You saw him catch his stern in the first upstream on the bottom of the river, which slowed down the rotation, meaning he left with no speed. I'm wondering if that's where that three-quarters of a second came from. Nicely through that offset sequence. Holds the pole in the upstream. He's given himself every effort here.
Well, he's in touch, isn't he? A second down.
Oh, didn't get the help from the wave there he wanted, which meant he was very late for that downstream, opting to go for the quick spin, staying clean. Remember, there's 3 medals out there for grabs. I'm sure he'd like to win, but this run is still in touch with that podium.
Very much in touch. First place 97.12, second 97.32.
A little timid in that offset. This is where he needs to be hammering.
Polite applause from his colleague, Fabian DOERFLER. So far, Andrea Romeo from Italy has guaranteed himself a medal. It's a case of what color. Last to go, you wouldn't have possibly predicted beforehand. It's 31-year-old Mathieu Doby from Belgium, part of the self-help group in Pau who train down in France all the time together.
I wouldn't say that he's necessarily a surprise, because everyone knows that Mathieu Doby has the capacity to do a fast run. He just isn't known for doing it at this stage of the competition. So the question now is, was that his best, or has he got the ability to recreate it?
Last year in his World Cups, he was 34th in Cardiff, 19th in Augsburg, Lasseria 12th, didn't compete in Tacen, and Bratislava 42nd, so it's great to see him in the final. And last weekend in Livali came 16th.
Interesting to see his split time, because he's doing nothing wrong so far, but is it a little too bland to be fast?
1.23, so still in with a chance.
What I like about this run is he's not knowing the times out on the scoreboard. He's not out there trying to do something beyond what he knows he's capable of. He's staying very much within his own style, his own level, if you will, and giving himself a really good chance potentially of ending up on the podium, even though the first place might be out of reach for him.
This weekend he is the Belgium team, only one paddle left in Belgium, made the trip. But saw 1.8 seconds down, so it's still a medal opportunity there.
Yeah, he's really doing nothing wrong out there. He's keeping the boat moving, nice and tight with the upstreams. This is critical. Gets on the wave. Now it's this exit and how well he's able to pull to the finish. He's got a small offset sequence to deal with, but really he needs to be pulling here.
But it's not gold, it's not silver. Oh, it just moves into 4th place.
2 Germans on the podium.
And an Italian, who looks probably the happiest of the lot. Can't quite read the message.
Was a nice run from Doby, though. I think he can be quite proud of that.
Part of the K1M group. There's Bersinger, Petelin, and a few of them giving their all down in Po.
And really, that's what fosters great performance, is that strong training group where you're willing to sort of sacrifice for each other, bleed with each other on those cold winter days, and then on race day, kind of forget about your friendship and go for it.
We're an Australian, a Slovenian, and a German on the top medal podium so far today. Lots of families here. Quite a few of the paddlers have their young kids with them, and a lot of the locals brought them with us. A great bouncy castle. Everyone having plenty of beer. And it's torture for us here because we can actually smell the burgers coming in. There's Jessica Fox talking to Jana Dukateva. Who's the little girl going to ask for the autographs first?
I have to say, though, we did miss Peter Kauser in this final. I wish him well and hope his recovery is as speedy as possible.
Germany, Italy, Germany, DOERFLER, ROMEO, SCHUBERT. Peter Kauser is actually about 3 meters away from us. He's been doing some of the Slovenian national TV. And I believe he's operated, is it next week, and looking big smile on his face, but obviously won by country mile last year. And so, as we mentioned, it's a big miss, but he's not the only one that could have been, but wasn't in the final with your back. Without that, you probably would have been up there as well.
Certainly here to play. It's fun.
David Ford, as ever, it's been a pleasure to have you on board. Thank you very much for your experience, your knowledge, and your enthusiasm. Join us tomorrow, please. We're going to be covering the K1 women, the C2, and it's going to be a lot of fun. Mike Dawson and David Florence are going to be with me in the commentary box. I'm Matthew Layton. Thank you, David.
Thank you.
And goodbye. See you tomorrow.